Hey, what is up guys? It is Harrison Barron, the Millennial Entrepreneur. Now in this video, I want to discuss and tell you guys about your Google Search Console. So if you don't know what Google Search Console is and you have a website, you absolutely need to watch this entire video. Now, if you have a Google Search Console and you kind of know about it, this is going to go very in depth. Now, there is way too much to cover in this video. I mean, I could spend hours on this, but this is going to give you a rock solid foundation of not only what Google's showing other people, but ultimately, one, how to see if your SEO is actually working, and two, to see where your website kind of stands on the internet, and that way you can gauge, are you doing a good job with your SEO? Are you getting the exposure you deserve online? And if something's holding you back, we can discover that right now. So, if you don't know what Google Search Console is basically the back end of Google. And when I say the back end of Google, so Google, right, people go online and they type in queries. Those queries are essentially questions or what people search, ultimately get a result or get an answer from Google. That's what it's doing, right? You type something in and Google does its best to spit out a result. Now, there's never going to be a time that Google doesn't spit out a result. It's always going to try to find the best answer, and it's always going to provide something. There's never a time where you're going to search on Google, unless it's the most ridiculous or just you pound it against your keyboard. It's always going to show you something. But ultimately, right, there's so many different ways to drive traffic to your website and how you show up online. This is incredibly important because essentially the more you show up online, the more visitors you're going to have, and ultimately, hopefully, more customers you're going to have, right? So understanding your Google Search Console and how Google's actually showing you out to queries and things like that is incredibly important. Now we're going to dive into my personal website because this is a project website we have going on right now. And ultimately I want to show you guys what Google's kind of telling me, what's working, what's not working, and ultimately how to help rank some of my pages even higher than they currently are. So some rankings I've lost, some rankings I've won. I've owned the first spot on Google for a little while for a bunch of different things. And I want to break all of that down, basically just diving really deep into this because a lot of people, either one, they don't know about Google Search Console, so you got to set that up. This is not the video for that, but it's quite easy. And then number two is really understanding it to the point where you can use it to help leverage and grow your website. That's really what it's about, right? Because if you don't care about what rank you have on your website or how much traffic you get, then this video doesn't mean anything to you. So let's jump into my computer really quick, and we are going to take a look at the back end of my website. Now, my website is harrisonbarron.com. And I will pull it up right here. And this is just my personal website. I'm not going to go into my business website or anything like that because this has been a complete project website for the most part. I do offer a course, but that's really not what this whole video is about. But I do have a very active blog. I have about 200 articles or so, just over 200 articles on here. But why does any of that matter? Well, the more articles you have, typically you're going to get more visibility online. So when you first jump into your Google Search Console, this is the first thing you're going to see. And this is just an overview, right? You want to make sure that you're in theory going up across the board, right? I'm hitting new peaks. I'm also hitting some lower areas and things like that. And depending on the time of the year and what people are doing and all that kind of stuff is going to impact how often you're seen online. So let's just take a look. This page is great. You can actually see how many valid pages I have, right? I have 396 valid pages. I don't necessarily always think that that's accurate, but I don't quite understand what it counts as a valid page. There's also a bunch of pages that I haven't officially hidden from Google, but Google is just indexed. But the great part is I know that I have no errors, which is huge because sometimes when we take over a website of my agency, there's hundreds of errors, and that's a nightmare to begin with. You want to make sure that you have no errors or as little errors as possible. And then you're going to have some enhancements, your core web vitals, your mobility usage, and then videos, right? Ultimately, you want as little in the errors area as possible, right? This is something I'm going to need to look into, but for right now, it's really nothing too concerning for me. But this is your overall. Now, most people, I shouldn't say most, everybody is going to have your performance. And this is probably where you're going to get the most data out of your website. So this is my website here. I've gotten 55.6 thousand impressions, 888 clicks in the last 3 months. Now you can change all of this kind of stuff. So we can do web, we can do image, we can do video, we can do news. For this, I really only care about the web. That's the only thing that's important to me right now. And we're just going to look at, I'm going to pull it actually out to 6 months. So that way you guys can kind of see the growth curve that I've been on my website. Now, for people that are looking at my website and saying, hey, you have a ton of blogs, why are you not growing faster? I'm doing a SEO test on a new software called Kajabi. Now, Kajabi is a course building platform. That is where my website, harrisonbarron.com, is made. I will pull that up, and there's always a link down below. for Kajabi if this is something you guys want to get interested in, but it is a course building platform and they have a website thing in there. Now the challenge was, hey, I bet you can't get SEO results on there, and I've said yes, you probably can because of the way they run it. So in here, you're going to see your clicks, right? So in theory, clicks are going up, right? And if you overlay them, they kind of overlap pretty nicely, right? As my impressions go up, my clicks go up, which is great. If you have a major separation in this where, your clicks are staying really, really low down on the bottom, but your impressions keep growing, you have some major problems to fix, right? And I'm going to show you guys how to discover those fixes and ultimately how to fix them. So we're going to just look at the first couple right here. That's your clicks, right? Your clicks over the last 6 months. This is your impressions, right? If it makes it a little easier, I'll just go right there. And clicks are good. They're increasing. Total impressions also increasing. Super happy to see that, right? Is it the most aggressive growth I've ever seen? No, but once again, this is a totally new software. Average click-through rate. Now this is kind of important. So this is how many people saw your stuff, right? And if you don't know what an impression is, if I go to pros and cons of Alignable. So this just got an impression. So I'm ranking number 2 on Google currently on here. So should you be on LinkedIn, Alignable, or both for your business, right? That is an impression, right? And as I scroll and my stuff appears on the screen, it has to be there for a couple seconds. You can't just zip by it and Google's going to count it. And then for somebody searching that, right, if they actually click on my blog, that counts as a click, right? So that's your click-through rate. So it's really just a percentage between your clicks versus your impressions. Pretty simple. Your click-through rate's always going to vary. It also depends on the business. It depends on how much content you have. So if you are a business website and you don't have that much content, chances are pretty good your click-through rate may be much higher or much lower. I've seen both. If you have a more informative website, your click-through rate might be much higher. If you're very much so focused on getting more clicks on your website, then you want that click-through rate, that average, to be as high as possible. So is it something that you should focus on all the time? No, but it's something that you should be aware of. And then probably my absolutely least favorite thing on this entire thing is the average position. Now you might be thinking, Harrison, why do you believe that? The average position takes the position of all your pages. So if you have pages that are just sitting there, right? If they're a landing page, if they're a sales page, or things like that, those are never going to rank. So they're always going to be really, really low. So then when you actually have pages that rank, you got to find the median, right? So if it's at 700 and you have one at 1, right, your 350 is your median right there. So I don't particularly love the average position, but the higher you can get it, better. But it doesn't particularly matter for most people. Now you're probably wondering, why am I even covering all this stuff? Well, if you're looking to improve your website, get more visitors, and ultimately get more clicks, this is something you need to really kind of look into. Now the reason why I pulled up pros and cons of Alignable, which is a query, if you could see under the queries thing, is because this is something that my website is trying to rank for. And the really cool part is you can actually sort to see which ones are ranking, where they're ranking, can I post inappropriate stuff on social media, LinkedIn versus Alignable, right? And if I click both, I can actually see how many clicks I've gotten on those pages and how many impressions I've gotten on those pages, right? Anchor FM podcast review, right? What countries are visiting it? So the United States, a lot of the UK, a lot of Canada, Philippines, little bit, believe it or not that much India, Australia, right? Really, really cool information in there. Devices, if you really care about what devices are being viewed on, tablet, mobile, desktop, search appearance, right? My videos are actually ranking, which is pretty cool. And then dates, what's going on each date. Doesn't particularly matter, but the things that you really want to focus on are your queries and your pages, because these are going to have and provide you the most information. Now, you could go in and, like I said, this is going to be a tutorial. So if I wanted to know, if I just wanted to see this, right? So it just really started ranking at the end, or just about the end of last year, really, October, right? And it's trying to figure out where it belongs in Google, yeah. And you can see here your average position, right? Average click-through rate. So on this page, it happens to be an 8.9% click-through rate, which is great because I'm number 2 right now on Google. And Google's still trying to figure out exactly where I belong. And this is over the last 6 months. But now if I take it and do the last 28 days, these numbers are going to vary tremendously. So I have a 10.6% click-through rate and I'm averaging position 2.9, which usually means I'm floating between positions 2 and positions 3. It doesn't think that I earned the number 1 spot yet. So I, as the person running the website, have to go back in and figure out, why is this not working the way I want it to work? And the reason why I pulled up the pros and cons of Alignable is because something in here is not clicking or not resonating with the audience that's searching this. So should you be on Alignable, LinkedIn, or both for your business, right? In this blog, I'm going to cover the pros and cons of using LinkedIn versus Alignable, so you never have to, right? So it's cut off kind of early, which means either there might not be any more information. There usually is if there's those three little dots. So that's something I need to go look into on my website. But because I'm not number one, but the content might be there. So there's a couple different things you as the end user can go in and fix on your website. One, you're going to want to read all your competitors. So why is the truth about Alignable ranking higher than me? Right? I have some plugins, they have a 17, I have a 15, but this person has a 62, right? So why are they ranking higher than me? That's kind of, I'm kind of curious to know why that is, right? Is it a better article? Is it better information? Is it more accurate information? Is it better geared towards a comparison? And ultimately, that's going to give me some kind of foundation to say, hey, what do I need to tweak? Now, when you're on the first page of Google, there's really only a couple things that you're gonna need to tweak, and that's going to be your title, and that's going to be your meta description right here. So in this blog, I'm going to cover the pros and cons of Alignable, right? This is something that you really need to go in and kind of master craft. And you're going to post it. You're going to go in, fix it, and post it. And then you're going to go check back in on it in 2 weeks to a month. And then you're going to go back in and fix and tweak. And ultimately, doing that over and over again while making sure that your blog is as good as it possibly can be is going to help you rank number one on Google for those things. But that's ultimately the information that you're going to get out of this kind of stuff. So if I go to the last 28 days, right, we still have the pros and cons of Alignable. And the cool part is when you light all these up, you can see your overall positions on all of these pages, right? So on here, I have pros and cons of Alignable, 2.9, 10.6, 578, 61. LinkedIn versus Alignable, I'm number 10.4, which means I'm floating between the first and second page. The first page of Google usually has about 10 results on it, plus ads. Anchor upload limit, right? I'm ranking 4.5. Is Alignable worth it? I'm ranking number 5. Expandy.io reviews, right? 6.3. Our LinkedIn messages private, 10.2, right? And I could go through and really kind of decipher and drill down on a lot of these different things, right? And kind of get the best information possible. And I see here like podcast starter kit, right? That's 52.4, right? I'm not getting any clicks on that. But this is the thought process that you need to really go down to say like, hey, what could I be doing better, right? So pros and cons of Alignable in the last 28 days has driven 61 clicks to my website, and the other searches are kind of slacking. And now I can go to pages and really kind of see, okay, great, what pages are ranking? So Anchor FM podcast review, right? And see what clicks. Can I post inappropriate stuff on social media, right? LinkedIn versus Alignable. What to know? Is Alignable worth it? Podcast interview questions, right? These are all different pages on my website, and I can see the overall position of that page. And this is taking all the queries and putting it together, the click-through rate, the impressions, and the clicks. So that's understanding, and that's really kind of reading. Now, there is a million ways that you could drill down on this, and I highly recommend if you are looking to improve your website, spend a lot of time on here, because this is going to give you the best topics to write about, and this is also going to give you the best information to understand on your website to help it improve, right? Because if I know that I'm on position, better yet, let me go to my queries here. If I'm in position 2.9 or 10.4, better yet, right? I want to be on that number one page of Google. So that means I need to go back in and rework whatever page this is attached to. So this one happens to be attached to the page LinkedIn versus Alignable, what to know, right? So maybe I need to add a couple more words in there or spruce it up or just a little bit of refinement in there. Nothing bad, but it's just information that you can use to ultimately make your website better. That is the core of Google Search Console. Now, there's a couple things I really want to cover before I end this, because that's literally most of it. You're going to have your URL inspection, so if I want to see if Google's looking at any website, any part of my website, I could just plug it in right there. I know that it's looking at every website, but if you're a new website, you could just drop it in and see if Google's actually indexed it. It may take Google a week, 2 weeks, a month to fully index your website. So don't be worried if it's not showing up right away, but hey, this is an area that you can go use. You also have coverage, right? Super important. So I have valid 396 pages and excluded 171 pages. So why are they excluded? For a variety of different reasons, right? Alternate page with proper conical tags, crawled, currently not indexed yet, so 57 pages are still waiting to be indexed, included in no index tag, right? These all have different things for Google to read, and ultimately it's just going to give you good information. But once again, the most important part, 0 errors and 0 warnings. Some websites may have warnings, but you really want to do your absolute best to get rid of all of those errors. It is so critically important when you're doing that. The next thing you're going to want to know is your sitemap. This is another super incredibly important thing about your website. Your sitemap is essentially Google's roadmap to figure out everything on your website. Now, if you're not sure how to get to your sitemap, most website generators or builders will do it for you. If you're on WordPress, you're going to need to install a platform like Yoast. If you're building them yourself, you're going to have to learn how to go build a sitemap, but chances are pretty good if you're building them yourself. You probably know all about this already. But if you're curious to know how to get there, you do /sitemap. And it's going to give you all the links. And you literally just grab this first link, copy, and I'm not going to paste it in there because it just read it actually today. But it's right there, right? And I submitted it earlier in February, and if depending on how often you publish, it'll automatically figure out your schedule on how often you publish, and it'll come back and read it every, if you publish a lot, every day. If you publish a little less than frequent, once a week, it'll check in on it once a week. But it's super cool if you have different sitemaps for different things. So, for example, you see HTTPS, HTTP, right? I have one error on there that's totally fine. I'm not worried about it. It's all the way from last year. It's just a reoccurring error. I know it's there. It's really not a big deal. And it's going to give you your index coverage, right? So it's kind of going to be that coverage before, right? Valid 214 pages on HTTPS, and then 34 excluded. So that's your sitemaps. Ultimately, right when you fire up a new website, you want to submit this because this is going to show Google your new website, and also it's going to show the roadmap, right? That treasure map of where all of those things are on your website. And then you have your core web vitals. You're actually going to be able to go right in here. Sometimes it'll actually give good information. Particularly, I really haven't seen anything that's like wowed me a lot. And yours might not look just like this. Some people have more buttons depending on what platform you're on and things like that. If you have AMP pages, AMP, accelerated mobile pages, you'll have an option for that. You'll have mobile usability, also super important, right? 32 valid, 0 errors, always good things, right? Videos, if there's any videos on the site, I have 3 videos valid currently. No errors, also really good. And then just like I said, depending on what platform you're on, how big your website is, if you're getting 100,000 clicks, and this is a project website, keep in mind, but if you're getting 100,000 clicks a month, you may have a couple more buttons in there, your web core vitals. When you're starting to get hundreds of thousands of clicks, those become really, really important because, a percentage means a lot as far as traffic. This is just something I'm looking to grow, and ultimately you want to just try your page speed insights. This is going to tell you how fast your website's going to run. So it's running right now on harrisonbarron.com, and it'll spit out some information. Ultimately, you want these numbers to be as high as possible. It's not always going to be the case. I've seen people with, 50s rank pretty good, right? This is a 58 on mobile, which I understand. Like, I know that. I know what I need to do, and serve images, next-gen formats. They want me to reformat my images. All of these images, I could probably shrink them down a little bit if I just import them as smaller files. Things like that, that'll help increase the speed. If you don't know what any of this is, or this is all too technical for you, the only thing I will tell you is you're better off not messing with this. Pay your web guy to go in there and fix this. But I'm okay with 58. I'm really not that mad. It's pretty hard to get it in that 90 to 100 range, especially on mobile. Desktop is much easier, but mobile is very difficult because all that data is coming right through this phone, and depending on your service and all that kind of stuff can play a huge factor in all that kind of stuff. But always check this, because if you have like a 0 to 49, you need to be worried. That's a little too slow, and it's because it's too slow, Google's actually not going to show you guys. Or when I say show you guys, I mean show you guys out on the internet. And that's really it. That's the whole summary of Google Search Console. I mean, this is a 20-minute long video, and I just covered pretty much everything you're going to need to know. What I would recommend doing is, if you have this, first you got to hit the like button. I mean, if you've made it this far, I hope I've earned a like button because it helps the YouTube algorithm, and there might be somebody else that wants to learn about this. But two, you want to go in here and really just drill down as far as you possibly can. Just drill, and figure out like, hey, what pages are ranking? How can you improve those pages? I'm going to be putting out tons of videos in the near future on how to optimize meta descriptions and titles and all that kind of stuff and looking at competitors. But this is just a quick overview of Google Search Console and just some quick assumptions you can make. If you need a 20-minute refresher, this is the refresher to catch you up to speed and things like that. Now, if you're looking to start a business and you don't even know what this is, definitely go watch, I think, my last video before this for some really good advice if you're even thinking about this. Don't quit your job just yet. But yeah, this is really cool. It's going to help you just totally optimize your website and just make it as good as possible to ultimately help you grow your business. So my name is Harrison Barron, the Millennial Entrepreneur. Hope this video helps. If you guys enjoyed it, like I said, like button, subscribe button, little notification bell so you never miss another opportunity to grow your business. I'll see you guys on the next one. Till then, bye.